I put a cucumber in my ass, down, 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 and it made me come, down, 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 down. Oh shit! I didn't realize this was recording. So, I saw this beautiful little article today, and it really got me thinking. At first, my thoughts were, does fantasy mean something different to most people than my own personal understanding of the word? But by the end of this article, all I could think was, damn, that was a really shitty list. Did an AI compile this list or something? I mean, probably not, because I feel like an AI would have just pulled like the top anime from my anime list or like Reddit or something and given you a generic but at least accurate list of the top 10 most popular fantasy anime, whatever. So I actually did skim through some of this article 2 days ago when I first saw it, like when it first came out. But when I saw what was on this list, I thought that it was so bad I honestly should just like hold off on reading it until I can like make a video about it. So I'm going into this one mostly blind. I did like skim through it a few days ago, but I don't even remember what was on it other than it was really stupid. So right after this beautiful headline image, the title talks about the top 10 greatest, or not top 10, just 10 of them. Or no, it is top 10 because it's ranked. I should have read this beforehand and then like written a script or something, but you know what? That sounds like a lot of work. The 10 greatest fantasy anime masterpieces of all time ranked. So it is ranked, but it's not a top 10. You know what? You know what? We're going to move on. That's what we're going to do. I don't know about you, but me personally, I think I would struggle to name even like 5 fantasy anime that I would consider masterpieces. But, you know, maybe this person's seen more than me cuz I will admit I'm not the most like prolific watcher of anime. I've only seen probably around 1,000 of them. This person. There are many people who've seen more than that. Um so if you go down here in the article, it talks about like fantasy anime being really big right now. I mean, yeah, I guess. When was this published? Oh, this month. Okay. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of fantasy anime being published. Talks about approaches it from different directions. I don't know what they mean by that. Why you should trust me. Here we go. Let's establish, you know, who the author is. She worked at McDonald's for nearly 4 years. She's a fan of anime before it was a job. Is being a fan of anime a job? I might look into that. I'll come back to that though. Um, classic OVAs, dark fantasy epics. Okay, so she knows about the difference. You know, dark fantasy and OVAs. So maybe we can expect like I don't know, maybe some like early '90s OVAs. I already see Lodos War on there right there, so that's a good sign. But she mentioned dark fantasy, so maybe we'll get some like Berserk, maybe something else, maybe some Claymores. Sprawling shonen adventure. That is not what I would typically associate with fantasy. I think me personally, I'd probably associate that with shonen. I mean, it's in the name. I'm a fan of shonen adventure, but calling it fantasy, I don't know. Character-driven stories, again, you know, not what I'd associate. I mean, you can have a fantasy that has good characters. In fact, it'd probably be better if it had good characters. Okay. So at the top of this list, number 10 on the list, I assume, because she didn't put numbers on this, is Record of Lodos War. Now, this will probably be one of the least contentious for me on this list, so I probably won't have much to say about this one, but so I probably won't have much to say about this one other than calling this a masterpiece, I think, is a little bit of a stretch because the story on this, to call it simplistic, would be like the understatement of the 20th century. The story is basically on par with children's cartoons of the same era, or like a video game like Dragon Quest or some shit like that. Or like, no, that probably had a more complex story. Like, even some shit like a shonen anime like Dragon Ball looks like a complex narrative when compared to this story, but I'm actually not too upset about this one being on the list because the execution of this show is actually very well done, just outside of the story. And it's also unambiguously a fantasy anime, unlike some of the later entries we'll see on this list. So let's just move on. I think I've talked enough about this. Okay, here we go. Here's where the problems start to arise. Konosuba. So the plus side about this one is that this one is also unambiguously a fantasy anime, but I am sorry to say that there is nothing about this show that it can be called a masterpiece. The story in this one might actually be worse than Lodoss War, because at least in Lodoss War, yeah, the story is simplistic or whatever, but they're taking it seriously and not like cracking stupid Marvel quips or whatever like they do in Konosuba. That basically when you do that, it makes it feel like there's no like stakes or like you shouldn't be invested in the story or take anything seriously. And yeah, it just so Konosuba just ends up being like a shitty mid 2010s derivative fantasy story. At least the tropes that it's parodying were different than the tropes that are prevalent now, like a decade later. Otherwise, I'd probably hate the show even more than I already do. This show does not belong anywhere near this list, and I'm actually offended that this would be called a masterpiece in any context. A masterpiece of shit, maybe. Okay. So, Spice and Wolf is the first anime that I think should actually be on this list. And if anything, it should probably be higher on this list. I haven't seen this anime since it first aired, like 20 years ago. Or what? How old did it say? 2008, 2009. That's like 18 years ago. Damn, I need to rewatch this anime. I haven't seen it in a while. It'd basically be like watching it again. I guess that's the one good thing I got out of this list is that it reminded me this show existed and I need to watch it again. I'll probably do that soon, to be honest. So you know what? Congratulations, author. You got one right, and I got something out of this article. So let's see what's next on this list. Oh God, Fate Zero. Oh no. I just recently watched this one, like not even a week ago, so it's still fresh in my mind. And I realize that my opinion is not aligned with the mainstream on this show, but every Fate series that I've watched before and after this one, Stay Night, Apocrypha, Strange Fake, even Prisma Ilia, all of those were all so much better, like and more enjoyable than watching Fate Zero. Like all I could think while watching Fate Zero was whenever a character would come up that I knew from another series, like Fate Stay Night, for example, it just made me want to like watch that instead. Um, so not a masterpiece. Is this a fantasy anime? I mean, that's an unambiguous no for me. At best, you could call this urban or low fantasy, and even then, it's still mostly an action series with urban fantasy elements, like maybe like slight urban fantasy elements limited to the combat exclusively. So yeah, Fate Zero does not belong on this list in any capacity. However, Made in Abyss. The only aspect of this being on the list that I disagree with is that it isn't in the number one spot. In terms of fantasy anime masterpieces, this is like this is the thing that came to mind. Was Made in Abyss. So this show is the definition of fantasy and is unambiguously a masterpiece. The fucking author even notes in this article that this has the best piece of world building in modern fantasy anime. I would get rid of the word modern out of that sentence, but hey, you know. So, I mean, if she says it right there, why isn't this number one? I mean, it looks like we agree on that. What kind of fucking dog shit list is this? Did you read this before writing it? Oh my god. Oh my god, dude. She put Attack on Titan above Made in Abyss. Are you fucking just get the fuck out of here with this list? Like what even this anime is still infamous years later for having the worst ending in all of anime and manga history. Me personally, I thought the problems began emerging as early as season two, but I mean, most people by the end of, or not even the end, but like by the start of the final season, most people I think realized like, oh, this is shit. But honestly, whatever. I'm just gonna move past that. I'd be here all day if I was talking about what went wrong with this show. I think this one is unambiguously a fantasy anime, at least, even if the setting is not conventional to the genre. It's still fantasy. You know, the fantasy elements aren't restricted to like um epic fight scenes between characters. They're actually like part of the plot and stuff. So it belongs on this list. Actually, no, it doesn't belong on this list because it fucking sucks. What else is on this list? Oh, there's a poll. What fantasy anime begins with the Demon King already defeated? Oh, well, we already know which one that is. I mean, anyone who's seen any anime at all knows that. It's fucking Konosuba. Oh, what? Anyways. Oh, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. Alright. This is the only one on the list I haven't seen at all, so I don't really want to say too much about this one. You lucked out on that point, list maker. My intuition says that this is just a dumb battle shonen that at best has some fantasy elements, but I honestly would need to watch it before I could say that confidently, so let's just move on. Okay. Full Metal Alchemist. I tried to say it like the guy in the intermission. Hopefully that came through. This one is a masterpiece. I think they integrate the fantasy elements so well into the show that it becomes more of a fantasy anime with battle shonen and adventure elements than the other way around, which is pretty rare. And I'm honestly not offended that this is on this list. What I am offended by is the fact that this is higher than Made in Abyss, but it is better than every other entry presented so far, at least in terms of being a quote fantasy masterpiece. Let's see what's next on this. This One Piece. Okay. This is another anime that I haven't watched in like 20 fucking years. Probably longer even. Yeah, probably like 2005 was the last time I watched an episode of One Piece. I think I was caught up to it back then, so I probably watched like over 200 episodes of it. And honestly, I remember it being more of an action adventure shonen than a fantasy anime. But that was so long ago that I could just be misremembering, and it's hard to say. Even still, I wouldn't say it belongs on this list. I didn't think it was a masterpiece, but I remember it being pretty good at least. I definitely want to go back and rewatch One Piece, get caught up with it all the way. Um, yeah, this shouldn't be on this list. Are they gonna put like fucking Dragon Ball next? Like One Piece on a fantasy list? I mean, if you're counting One Piece as a fantasy anime, then you have to count like Dragon Ball and Naruto and all those other battle shonen. Fucking Bleach, where's that at? Oh boy. Frieren at number one. Hold on, is there some? No, that was number one. I did count right. Frieren, Frieren, Frieren at number one. Are you fucking kidding me? I actually really liked season one of this anime, but it is not at the level of masterpiece, let alone the best fantasy anime of all time. You can get the fuck out of here with this list. It doesn't even make the top 10 for best fantasy if you're including season 2. Is that all? Nothing else in the article? Okay. Wow, what a shitty list. No ReZero, no Tensura, the most popular fantasy anime of all time. No Mushoku Tensei, no Toaru, no Ghibli, no Berserk, no Yojo Senki. This whole list comes across like it was made by someone who doesn't like fantasy anime, unless it's primarily another genre with sparse fantasy elements, usually only utilized for combat, like a battle shonen or adventure shit. Which I mean, I like both of those genres, battle shonen, adventure, but like, don't put them on a fantasy list. What the fuck? Am I going crazy, or was that a shitty article? Like, this article sucked.